The dinner party was going perfectly until my wife Veronica decided to drop her little bomb. "Oh, you want to know a secret?" She giggled, wine glass in hand, addressing our guests with that theatrical flair she'd perfected during her 15 years as Franklin Elementary's assistant principal. "I slept with Eli's dad for half a year." The room erupted in laughter. Bob and Martha from next door nearly choked on their appetizers. Even my employee Mason, who I'd reluctantly invited, was grinning like an idiot. I forced a smile and raised my beer. "Well, that's news to me, honey. Considering Dad's been dead since 2009. More laughter. Veronica's cheeks flushed pink as she realized her slip. "You know what I meant. Before we got married, obviously. Your father was such a charmer. But here's the thing about living with someone for 12 years. You learn their tells." The way Veronica's left eye twitched when she lied. How she touched her earring when nervous. The slight tremor in her voice when she was covering something up. All three tells were firing like warning bells. "Dad would have gotten a kick out of that," I said, keeping my voice steady. Inside, my mind was racing. Why that particular lie? Why bring up sleeping with someone's father at all? And why did she look so damn guilty? The party continued around us, but I was somewhere else entirely. I watched Veronica work the room, charming our neighbors with stories about difficult parents and budget cuts at school. She was good at this, the perfect hostess, the devoted wife, the pillar of the community. Too bad it was all bullshit. After everyone left and we'd cleaned up, Veronica headed upstairs for her nightly routine. I stayed in the kitchen, nursing another beer and thinking. Our old Victorian house creaked around me, settling into the quiet of another evening in our supposedly perfect life. That's when I remembered something. Veronica's iPad, the one she'd given me last Christmas after upgrading to the latest model, was still linked to her Apple account. She'd never bothered to disconnect it, probably forgot I even had it. I pulled it out of the junk drawer where it had been gathering dust for months. The screen lit up, and immediately I saw the notification badges, dozens of unread messages. My finger hovered over the Messages app. This was it. The line between suspicion and certainty. Cross it, and there was no going back to ignorant bliss. I tapped the icon. The first conversation thread made my blood run cold. Chad W. I knew that name. Chad Wilcox, the slick realtor who'd sold us this house 3 years ago. The same Chad who'd been a little too friendly, a little too helpful, a little too interested in my wife. The messages went back months. Hundreds of them. Chad, can't wait to see you tonight. Same place? Veronica, Eli's working late again. I'll be there by 8. Chad, you're incredible. I can't get enough of you. Veronica, we have to be more careful. Renee almost caught us at lunch yesterday. I scrolled back further, my hands shaking. The messages got more explicit, more detailed. Plans for meetups, complaints about me, intimate details I never wanted to read, but it was the photo that broke something inside me. Veronica, in Chad's bedroom. I recognized the gaudy modern furniture from when he'd invited us over for a barbecue last summer. She was wearing the red lingerie I'd bought her for our anniversary. The anniversary she'd claimed to have food poisoning and spent the evening recovering in bed. I set the iPad down carefully, like it might explode. My beer tasted like ash. The house felt different now. Not like home, but like a crime scene. Upstairs, I could hear Veronica brushing her teeth, getting ready for bed. In a few minutes, she'd come downstairs in her ratty old pajamas, kiss my forehead, and tell me she loved me. Just like she had every night for the past 6 months while she was screwing Chad Wilcox. I looked around our kitchen, at the hand-painted cabinets I'd restored myself, the vintage light fixtures we'd hunted for at antique shops, the little herb garden visible through the window that Veronica tended every morning. All of it was a lie. Our entire life was a performance, and I'd been the only one who didn't know I was acting. But here's what Veronica didn't understand about me, what 12 years of marriage had somehow failed to teach her. I wasn't just Eli Carter, the quiet hardware store owner who fixed her leaky faucets and nodded along with her dinner party stories. I was Eli Carter, the guy who'd built his business from nothing, who'd outmaneuvered every competitor in town, who'd turned a failing hardware store into the most successful one in 3 counties. I was patient. I was methodical. And when someone betrayed me, I didn't get mad. I got even. The next morning, Veronica left for work with the same kiss on my cheek she'd given me for 12 years. Have a good day, honey. Don't work too hard. I watched her silver Honda pull out of our driveway, the same car I'd helped her pick out, the same car I'd made payments on when money was tight, the same car she'd been driving to Chad's condo 3 times a week. At Carter Hardware, I tried to focus on inventory and customer orders, but my mind kept drifting. Mason noticed immediately. "You look like hell, boss. Rough night?" Mason Torres had worked for me for 8 years. He was 26, single, and had the kind of loyalty you can't buy. More importantly, he had skills I was going to need. Mason, hypothetically speaking, if someone wanted to keep track of where their car was going, what would be the best way to do that? He raised an eyebrow. Hypothetically? GPS tracker. Small, magnetic, battery lasts about 2 weeks. We sell them in the automotive section. And hypothetically, how hard would they be to install? About as hard as sticking a magnet under a bumper. Mason studied my face. Everything okay at home? I'd known this moment would come. I could try to handle everything alone, or I could trust the one person who'd never let me down. Veronica's having an affair. Mason's expression darkened. He'd always liked Veronica, or at least I'd thought he had. You sure? I pulled out my phone and showed him one of the tamer messages from the iPad. His jaw tightened as he read. That lying piece of... He caught himself. Sorry, boss. What do you need me to do? Right now? Help me install a GPS tracker. Later? I'll let you know. We closed the store for lunch and drove to my house. The tracker was smaller than a deck of cards, with a magnetic base that attached to the Honda's rear wheel well with a satisfying click. Mason showed me how to monitor it through an app on my phone. This feels like something out of a spy movie, he muttered, wiping his hands on a rag. Yeah, well, apparently my life is something out of a bad drama. That evening, I played the dutiful husband. I asked about Veronica's day, listened to her complaints about budget meetings and difficult teachers, helped her prepare dinner. All while the iPad sat in my workshop, downloading every message, every photo, every piece of evidence I'd need. The GPS tracker told its own story. Tuesday evening, straight from school to Chad's condo, stayed until 9:30 p.m. Wednesday, lunch at the Riverside Inn, the same place Veronica and I had our first date. Thursday, Chad's place again, this time until almost midnight. Each ping on the map felt like a knife twist, but I forced myself to document everything. Screenshots, timestamps, locations. I was building a case like a prosecutor, because in a way, that's exactly what I was doing. Friday night, Veronica announced she was going out with her friend Renee. Girls' night, she said, already changing into clothes that were too nice for drinks with a girlfriend. Don't wait up. I waited until her car disappeared around the corner, then grabbed my keys. The GPS tracker showed her heading toward downtown, but I wanted visual confirmation. Chad's condo was in one of those new developments that looked like it was designed by someone who'd never actually lived in a house. All glass and steel and pretension. His BMW was in the parking lot, right next to Veronica's Honda. I parked across the street and waited. At 8:47 p.m., they appeared on the 3rd-floor balcony. Veronica was wearing the blue dress I'd complimented that morning. Chad had his arms around her waist. I took pictures with my phone's zoom lens. Not great quality, but good enough to show faces, good enough to prove what was happening. They were laughing about something. Veronica threw her head back, the same laugh she used to give me when we were dating, when she used to think I was funny and charming instead of boring and predictable. That's when I realized something that surprised me. I wasn't heartbroken. I was angry, sure. Betrayed, absolutely. But the crushing sadness I'd expected, It wasn't there. Maybe because deep down I'd known something was wrong for months. The late meetings that never appeared on her school calendar. The new clothes and perfume. The way she'd started picking fights over nothing, like she was trying to justify what she was doing. Or maybe because the woman on that balcony wasn't the Veronica I'd fallen in love with. That woman had been kind, genuine, supportive of my dreams. This woman was a stranger wearing my wife's face. I drove home and spent the evening in my workshop, planning. By midnight, I had the outline of what I was going to do. It wasn't going to be quick, and it wasn't going to be subtle. It was going to be thorough. Monday morning brought the first opportunity to test Chad's character. I'd done my research over the weekend, social media, public records, casual conversations with people who knew him. The picture that emerged wasn't pretty. Chad Wilcox was exactly what he appeared to be. A smooth-talking predator who'd built his success on charm and other people's trust. He'd been married twice, both marriages ending in messy divorces. His real estate business was successful, but rumors suggested he wasn't always honest about property conditions or market values. Most importantly, he was vain. The BMW, the expensive clothes, the carefully maintained image, it all mattered to him, which made him vulnerable. I waited until Tuesday evening, when the GPS tracker showed Veronica at Chad's place. Then I drove downtown with a set of keys I'd borrowed from the hardware store. The parking lot was dimly lit, perfect for what I had planned. Chad's BMW sat under a flickering streetlight, pristine and gleaming. I walked around it slowly, admiring the paint job, the custom rims, the vanity license plate that read, "Sold for you." The key made a satisfying screech as it carved a line from the front bumper to the rear taillight. Not deep enough to cause real damage, just enough to ruin the perfect finish. I repeated the process on the other side, then added a few artistic flourishes. For the finishing touch, I placed a fake parking ticket under his windshield wiper. Mason had designed it on his computer, complete with official-looking letterhead. Violation: parking in space reserved for honest people. Fine: $500 or stop screwing other men's wives. Next offense will result in more serious consequences. I was back home before Veronica returned, sitting in my recliner with a beer and the evening news like nothing had happened. "How was girls' night?" I asked when she walked in. "Oh, you know. Same old complaints about husbands and jobs." She kissed my forehead, and I caught a whiff of Chad's cologne. "Renee's thinking about leaving Mike." "That's too bad." They seemed happy. "Nobody's really happy, Eli. We all just pretend to be." The irony was so thick I nearly choked on my beer. Wednesday morning, I got the reaction I was hoping for. Chad called the store, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. "Eli, I need to ask you something. Do you know anyone who might have a grudge against me?" "A grudge? What happened?" "Someone vandalized my car last night, keyed it pretty badly, left some kind of threatening note. I made appropriate sympathetic noises." "That's terrible, Chad." "Did you call the police?" "Yeah, but they said without witnesses or security footage, there's not much they can do." He paused. "The note mentioned something about personal matters. I was wondering if maybe someone said something to you." "What kind of personal matters?" Another pause. "Never mind. It's probably just some random crazy person. Well, if I hear anything, I'll let you know. Hey, didn't you sell the Hendersons that house on Maple Street? Maybe it's a disgruntled client." "Maybe. Thanks, Eli." After he hung up, I allowed myself a small smile. Round one to me. But the real test came that evening, when Veronica got home from work. She seemed agitated, checking her phone constantly, distracted during dinner. "Everything okay?" I asked. "What?" "Oh yes, just work stuff. Budget meetings are always stressful," but her phone buzzed with a text, and I caught a glimpse of the name, Chad. Her face went pale as she read it. "I need to run to the store," she said suddenly. "We're out of milk." "We have a full gallon in the fridge." I mean, the good milk, the organic stuff. She was already grabbing her keys. I'll be right back. The GPS tracker showed her going straight to Chad's place. She stayed for 2 hours, probably comforting him about his poor, vandalized car, maybe helping him file insurance claims. When she got home, she was carrying a gallon of organic milk and a guilty expression. "Find everything you needed?" I asked. The store was crowded. Long lines. On a Wednesday night? You know how it is. No, Veronica. I knew how it used to be when you told me the truth. This new version of you, I was still figuring out. But I was learning fast. Thursday morning brought an unexpected visitor to the hardware store. Mrs. Groves, our 73-year-old neighbor, shuffled in with her usual shopping list and her usual gossip. "Morning, Eli. I need some of those little screws for my kitchen cabinet." "Coming right up, Mrs. Groves." "How's everything on Elm Street?" "Oh, you know, same old drama." She leaned conspiratorially across the counter. "Though I did see Veronica leaving pretty late last night. Must have been past 10 o'clock. My hand stilled on the screw bin. "Really?" Dressed up nice, too. Where was she headed so late on a school night? Mrs. Groves had lived on our street for 40 years. She knew everyone's schedule, everyone's business, everyone's secrets. She was also the neighborhood's unofficial information network. "Girls' night with Renee," I said carefully. "Funny thing about that?" Mrs. Groves counted out exact change. "I saw Renee at the grocery store around 9:30. She was with her kids, buying ice cream for a movie night at home." The screws scattered across the counter as my hand jerked. "You sure it was Renee?" "Honey, I've known that girl since she was in diapers." It was definitely Renee. Mrs. Groves studied my face. "Everything okay at home?" This was the moment of truth. I could deflect, make excuses, protect Veronica's reputation and my own pride. Or I could plant a seed that would grow into something much larger. "I'm sure there's an explanation," I said. "Maybe plans changed." But Mrs. Groves had been reading people for 7 decades. She heard what I didn't say. "Well, if you ever need someone to talk to, you know where to find me. I make excellent coffee, and I'm very good at keeping secrets." She paused at the door. Or sharing them when the time is right. After she left, I sat in the empty store and thought about allies. Mrs. Groves had just offered to become one, in her subtle way. Mason was already on my side. But what about everyone else? That evening, I decided to test the waters at Murphy's Pub, the local bar where half the town gathered to drink and gossip. I wasn't usually a regular, but grief made people do unusual things. "Eli!" Danny Murphy himself was behind the bar, polishing glasses. "Don't see you in here much." "Everything okay?" "Just needed to get out of the house." "Veronica's at another meeting." "School board?" "Something like that." I ordered a beer and settled in to listen. It didn't take long for the conversation to turn to local gossip. Someone's divorce, someone's job troubles, someone's affair. "Speaking of affairs," said Tom Bradley, a plumber who'd done work for half the town, "anyone else notice Chad Wilcox has been awfully busy lately?" Showing houses at all hours of the night. A few chuckles around the bar. "That boy's always been too smooth for his own good," added Janet Riley, who worked at the bank. "2 divorces before 40? That's not bad luck, that's a pattern." "What kind of pattern?" I asked innocently. "The kind where he can't keep his hands off other people's wives," Tom said. "My buddy Mike installed security cameras at that condo complex where Chad lives. Says there's been a lot of interesting traffic lately." My pulse quickened. "Interesting how?" "Let's just say Chad's been entertaining the same married lady 3 times a week for the past few months. Real regular schedule. The bar went quiet. Everyone was looking at me now, waiting to see if I'd connected the dots." "Well," I said carefully, "I'm sure her husband will figure it out eventually." "Yeah," Tom said. "And when he does, Chad's going to wish he'd stuck to selling houses." I finished my beer and headed home, mind racing. The rumors were already out there, circulating through the town's gossip network. People had noticed, people were talking. All I had to do was give them a reason to talk louder. Veronica was in bed when I got home, pretending to be asleep. Her phone was charging on the nightstand, screen dark but probably full of messages from Chad. I stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching her fake sleep. Tomorrow, I'd start phase 2 of my plan. But tonight, I wanted to remember what it felt like to be married to someone I thought I knew. Because after tomorrow, everything was going to change. Friday night was Franklin Elementary's annual fundraiser held in the school gymnasium. The whole town turned out for it. Parents, teachers, local business owners, politicians. It was Veronica's event, her chance to shine as the assistant principal who made everything run smoothly. She'd been planning it for months, coordinating vendors and volunteers, designing the program, arranging the silent auction. She was in her element, wearing her best dress and her brightest smile. I arrived fashionably late, after the speeches but before the main event. The gym was decorated with balloons and banners, round tables filled with chattering families. A projector screen at the front showed a slideshow of student activities and achievements. "Eli!" Veronica appeared at my elbow, slightly breathless. "I was wondering where you were." "Sorry, honey. Had to close up the store." I kissed her cheek. "Everything looks great." "Thank you. I think it's going well." She glanced around the room, counting heads, calculating donations. "The silent auction is doing really well. Oh, and Chad donated a weekend at his lake house. Isn't that generous?" Chad was across the room, working his charm on a group of parents. He caught my eye and waved, the picture of innocent friendliness. "Very generous," I agreed. What Veronica didn't know was that I'd spent the afternoon preparing for this moment. Mason had helped me set up a fake airdrop account on my phone, one that would appear to come from an anonymous source. The photo I'd selected was one of the tamer ones from the iPad, Veronica and Chad having lunch at the Riverside Inn, holding hands across the table. I waited until Principal Roberts took the stage for the evening's main presentation about the school's achievements. The lights dimmed, and everyone's attention focused on the screen. That's when I activated the airdrop. The photo appeared on the projection screen for exactly 3 seconds before someone killed the feed, but 3 seconds was enough. The entire gymnasium saw Veronica Carter, assistant principal and pillar of the community, in an intimate moment with Chad Wilcox, local realtor and known womanizer. The silence was deafening. Then the whispers started, spreading through the crowd like wildfire. Heads turned toward our table. Veronica's face had gone white, then red, then white again. "Technical difficulties," Principal Roberts announced, his voice strained. "Let's take a short break while we get this sorted out." But the damage was done. Parents were pulling out their phones, texting frantically. Teachers were clustering in corners, whispering behind their hands. The carefully orchestrated evening had become a disaster. "I need some air," Veronica whispered, and fled toward the exit. I followed her outside, where she was pacing in the parking lot like a caged animal. "How did that happen?" she demanded. "How did that photo get on the screen?" "I don't know, honey. Maybe someone hacked the system?" "That's impossible. The photo was—" She stopped, realizing what she'd almost admitted. Was what? Nothing. It was nothing. But her hands were shaking as she lit a cigarette, a habit she'd supposedly quit years ago. "Veronica, is there something you need to tell me?" She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw the moment she decided to double down on the lie. "Someone's trying to sabotage me, Eli. This is all fake, photoshopped or something. I've never even had lunch with Chad Wilcox." "Really? Because Mrs. Groves saw you leaving the house pretty late last night. Said you were dressed up nice." "I was at a meeting. Renee was home with her kids, having a movie night." Veronica's cigarette trembled between her fingers. "How do you know that?" "Small town, honey. People notice things." We stood there in the parking lot, surrounded by the sounds of the fundraiser falling apart inside. Parents were leaving early, taking their checkbooks and their donations with them. Months of Veronica's work, destroyed in 3 seconds. "This isn't over," she said finally. "Whoever did this, they're going to pay." "I'm sure they are," I agreed. But as we drove home in silence, I couldn't help smiling. The photo had been the opening shot, not the killing blow. The real fun was just beginning. The weekend after the fundraiser was the longest 48 hours of our marriage. Veronica barely spoke to me, spending most of her time on the phone with Renee or locked in her home office preparing for the investigation. Because, of course, there was going to be an investigation. Principal Roberts had called Saturday morning to inform Veronica that the school board would be conducting a formal inquiry into the security breach and its implications for her position. "They can't fire me over a fake photo," she insisted, pacing our kitchen with her 3rd cup of coffee. "Of course not," I said, "but you know how people talk." And talk they did. By Sunday, the story had spread through the entire town. The grocery store, the gas station, the post office, everywhere I went, conversations stopped when I walked in, then resumed in whispers after I passed. Mrs. Groves cornered me in my own driveway Sunday afternoon. "Terrible business at the school," she said, not bothering with small talk. "Poor Veronica must be devastated. She's holding up." "I'm sure she is." Strong woman. Mrs. Groves paused. "Of course, where there's smoke, there's usually fire." "What do you mean?" "Oh, nothing specific. Just that people have been noticing things for months. Late nights, new clothes, that glow women get when they're feeling appreciated." She patted my arm. "Sometimes the last person to know is the one who should know first." Monday morning brought a new development. Chad called the store again, this time sounding panicked. "Eli, we need to talk, in person." "What about—" "Not over the phone. Can you meet me for coffee? Murphy's at 10? I agreed, curious to see what kind of story he'd concocted. Murphy's was nearly empty at 10 a.m., just a few retirees nursing coffee and reading newspapers. Chad was already there, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "Thanks for coming," he said as I sat down. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me." "Okay." "Do you think I'm having an affair with your wife?" The question hung in the air between us. This was the moment of truth, the crossroads where I could confront him directly or continue playing the long game. "Are you?" I asked. "No, absolutely not. Veronica is a lovely woman, but she's married to my friend. I would never cross that line." "Friend, that was rich." "Then why are you asking?" Chad ran his hands through his perfectly styled hair. "Because someone's been messing with me, Eli. First my car gets vandalized, now this photo thing at the school. Someone wants people to think we're having an affair. Who would do that? I don't know. Maybe someone with a grudge against Veronica? Or against me? My business has been doing really well lately. Maybe a competitor is trying to damage my reputation." I nodded thoughtfully. "That makes sense. But Chad, I have to ask, why would someone choose Veronica specifically? I mean, if they wanted to hurt your reputation, wouldn't they pick someone more obvious?" "What do you mean?" "Well, Veronica's not exactly the type for affairs. She's pretty straightforward, not much for drama or excitement. If someone wanted to create a scandal, they'd probably pick someone more glamorous." Chad's face darkened. "Your wife is an attractive woman, Eli." "Oh, I know. I'm just saying she's not the type to sneak around. Too honest, too boring." I sipped my coffee. Now, if someone wanted to make it believable, they'd have to have real evidence. Photos from multiple occasions, text messages, that kind of thing. Right, exactly. Chad was nodding eagerly. And since none of that exists, whoever's doing this is going to run out of ammunition pretty quickly. Unless they get creative. What do you mean? I leaned forward conspiratorially. Well, if I were trying to frame someone for an affair, I might start following them around. taking photos of innocent meetings and making them look suspicious. Maybe I'd even try to set up situations where they'd be alone together. Chad went pale. You think someone's watching us? It's possible. I mean, how else would they get that photo of you two at lunch? We never had lunch together. The words slipped out before he could stop them. We stared at each other across the table, both realizing what he'd just admitted. I mean, he backtracked quickly. We might have run into each other somewhere, but it wasn't planned or anything. But it was too late. He'd confirmed what I already knew. They'd been careful, secretive, probably meeting in public places where they thought no one would recognize them. Well, I said, standing up, I'm sure it'll all blow over. These things usually do. Yeah, I hope so. As I walked back to the store, I felt a familiar satisfaction. Chad was rattled, making mistakes, starting to panic. And panic made people do stupid things. I was counting on it. Tuesday evening brought the confrontation I'd been expecting. I was in my workshop, pretending to organize tools while actually planning my next move, when Veronica burst through the door. We need to talk. She'd been drinking, not drunk, but enough to give her courage. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes bright with anger and wine. Sure. What's on your mind? I know what you're doing, Eli. I set down the wrench I'd been holding. What am I doing? Don't play dumb. The photo at the school, the rumors, all of it. You're trying to destroy my reputation because you're jealous. Jealous of what? Of my success. Of my position at the school. Of the fact that I have ambitions beyond selling screws and paint to farmers. The accusation was so far from the truth, it was almost funny. Almost. Veronica, I've supported your career for 12 years. I've never been anything but proud of your success. Then explain the photo. I can't. I don't know how it got there. She stepped closer, and I could smell the wine on her breath. Someone hacked the school's system, Eli. Someone with technical knowledge and access to private photos. Are you accusing me of something? I'm saying it's awfully convenient that my husband owns a store full of security cameras and computer equipment, and suddenly intimate photos of me are showing up in public. The irony was staggering. She was accusing me of fabricating evidence while standing 3 feet away from the iPad that contained months of real evidence. Intimate photos of you and Chad Wilcox, I said quietly. There are no photos of me and Chad Wilcox because there's nothing between us. Then where did the photo come from? I don't know. Maybe it was staged. Maybe someone hired actors. Maybe it was completely fake. Actors who look exactly like you and Chad? It's possible. We stared at each other across my cluttered workbench. This was the moment she could have told me the truth, could have admitted everything, and maybe, we could have worked through it. Instead, she doubled down. I want you to stop, Eli. Whatever sick game you're playing, it ends now. I won't let you destroy my career because you're having some kind of midlife crisis. And if I don't stop, then I'll have to take steps to protect myself. What kind of steps? She straightened her shoulders, trying to look intimidating. I've been talking to a lawyer. About divorce, about harassment, about what options I have when my own husband starts stalking me. The threat hung in the air between us. She thought she was calling my bluff, forcing me to back down and return to being the quiet, supportive husband who never asked questions. She had no idea she was declaring war. I see, I said calmly. And what did this lawyer tell you? That I have grounds for a restraining order if you don't stop harassing me and my colleagues. Colleagues? Is that what we're calling Chad now? Her face flushed deeper. Chad is a respected member of this community. He doesn't deserve to be dragged into your paranoid fantasies. My paranoid fantasies. Yes, your paranoid, jealous, pathetic fantasies about your wife having an affair with a successful, attractive man. The words hit like physical blows. Not because they hurt. I was past being hurt by anything Veronica said. But because they revealed exactly what she thought of me. Paranoid. jealous, pathetic. "Well," I said, "I guess we know where we stand." "Yes, we do." She turned toward the door, then paused. "I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight, and I think you should consider staying somewhere else for a while, until you get your head straight." After she left, I sat in my workshop for a long time, listening to her move around upstairs. Drawers opening and closing, hangers rattling in the closet. She was packing a bag, probably planning to stay at Renee's, or maybe even Chad's place. I pulled out my phone and opened the GPS tracking app. If Veronica was escalating things, it was time for me to escalate too. The nuclear option I'd been saving was about to become necessary. Wednesday morning, Veronica left the house with 2 suitcases and a self-righteous expression. She was moving in with Renee temporarily, she announced, until I got the help I clearly needed. I waved goodbye from the kitchen window and immediately got to work. The iPad had been collecting evidence for weeks, but I'd been selective about what I saved. Now I downloaded everything, every message, every photo, every piece of incriminating evidence. I organized it chronologically, created a timeline that showed exactly when the affair started and how it had progressed. Then I made copies, lots of copies. By noon, I had a comprehensive dossier that would have made a private investigator proud. Text messages that proved premeditation, photos that showed intimacy, a GPS log that documented every meeting, every lie, every betrayal. My first stop was the law office of Patricia Hendricks, the best divorce attorney in 3 counties. She was expensive, but she was thorough, and she had a reputation for protecting her clients' interests. "Mr. Carter," she said, reviewing the evidence I'd brought, "this is quite comprehensive." "I'm thorough." "Indeed. And you obtained all of this legally?" "The iPad was a gift from my wife. It's registered to my Apple account. The GPS tracker is on my car, which is registered in both our names. The photos were taken in public places." She nodded approvingly. "Your wife has no idea you have this?" "None." "Good. Don't tell her. Don't hint at it. Let her think she's in control." Patricia closed the folder. "With evidence like this, we can protect your assets, ensure a favorable custody arrangement if there are children involved, and possibly pursue alienation of affection claims. There are no children, but I want everything else." "Everything?" "The house, the business, the retirement accounts. She wants to destroy my reputation and steal my life. She can do it from a studio apartment." Patricia smiled. "I like your style, Mr. Carter." Let's get started. My second stop was the Franklin Elementary School District Office. I had an appointment with Superintendent Davis, ostensibly to discuss the security breach at the fundraiser. "Mr. Carter, thank you for coming in. I wanted to assure you that we're taking this incident very seriously." "I appreciate that, Dr. Davis, but I'm actually here about something else." I pulled out a carefully edited selection of evidence, enough to show that Veronica had been conducting an affair, but not enough to reveal how I'd obtained the information. I thought the school board should be aware that the security breach may not have been a breach at all. These photos appear to be genuine. Dr. Davis studied the images with growing concern. "Mr. Carter, are you saying your wife is having an affair with Mr. Wilcox?" "I'm saying the evidence speaks for itself. This is very serious. If true, it represents a significant breach of professional conduct. Mrs. Carter has been using school resources to coordinate personal meetings, lying about her whereabouts during work hours. I thought you should know." "Absolutely. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I'll need to convene an emergency board meeting." My third stop was the most satisfying. Chad's real estate office was in a converted Victorian downtown, all brass fixtures and leather furniture designed to impress clients. Chad was on the phone when I walked in, but he quickly ended the call. "Eli, what brings you by? I wanted to thank you." "Thank me?" "For helping me see the truth about my marriage." Chad's smile faltered. "I'm not sure I follow." I pulled out my phone and showed him one of the photos. Him and Veronica in his condo, clearly recognizable, clearly intimate. You see, Chad, I've been married to Veronica for 12 years. I know her tells, her habits, her patterns. I knew she was lying about something, but I wasn't sure what. Chad had gone completely white. Eli, I can explain. You don't need to explain. This explains everything. I scrolled to another photo. 6 months, Chad. 6 months you've been screwing my wife in the bed I helped you pick out when you bought that condo. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. And now it's what everyone else is going to think too. I put the phone away and headed for the door. Wait. Chad jumped up from his desk. What do you want? Money? I can pay you. We can work something out. I don't want your money, Chad. Then what? I paused at the door and looked back at him. He was sweating now, his perfect hair disheveled, his confident facade crumbling. I want you to remember this feeling, I said. The panic, the fear, the knowledge that your whole life is about to change. Because that's how I felt when I found out about you and my wife. Eli, please. The difference is, I didn't deserve it. I left him standing in his office, probably already planning his exit strategy. But it was too late for exit strategies. The wheels were in motion, and nothing was going to stop them now. Thursday morning brought the first domino. Dr. Davis called an emergency school board meeting, and by noon, Veronica had been placed on administrative leave, pending a full investigation into conduct unbecoming a school administrator. She called me, hysterical. They suspended me, Eli. Without pay, over a fake photo. I'm sorry to hear that. Don't give me that bullshit. I know you did this. Veronica, I didn't suspend you. The school board did. Because of evidence you provided. What evidence? I don't have any evidence of an affair. The lie came easily now. I'd had plenty of practice. Then how did they get photos of me and Chad? Maybe the same way the photo got on the screen at the fundraiser. Maybe whoever's been harassing you decided to escalate. She was quiet for a long moment. You're enjoying this. I'm not enjoying watching my wife's career get destroyed over rumors and gossip. They're not rumors. The words slipped out before she could stop them. We both heard what she'd just admitted. I mean, she backtracked quickly. The photos aren't rumors. But what they show is innocent. Chad and I are friends. We've had lunch a few times, discussed business. What kind of business? Real estate business. I was thinking about investing in property. Without telling your husband? I wanted it to be a surprise. The lies were getting more elaborate, more desperate. She was drowning and didn't even realize it. Well, I said, I'm sure you'll be able to explain everything to the school board. After she hung up, I allowed myself a moment of satisfaction, but there was no time to celebrate. The second domino was already falling. Chad's business partner, Steve Morrison, called that afternoon. Eli, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be straight with me. Sure, Steve. Is Chad having an affair with your wife? Why are you asking? Because 3 clients called this morning to cancel their listings. Word's getting around town and people don't want to work with someone they think is a homewrecker. I let that sink in. What did Chad tell you? That it's all lies and rumors, that someone's trying to destroy his reputation. But Eli, I've known Chad for 5 years. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. What do you mean? There was a situation in his last town. A married client, some inappropriate behavior. Nothing was ever proven, but Chad decided it was time to relocate. This was news to me. He never mentioned that. He wouldn't. Look, Eli, I like you. You're a straight shooter, good reputation in this town. If Chad's been messing around with Veronica, I need to know. The business can't survive another scandal. I considered my options. Steve was offering me a chance to destroy Chad professionally, but I had to be careful not to seem too eager. Steve, I honestly don't know what's going on. But if you're worried about the business, maybe you should ask Chad directly. I did. He swore on his mother's grave that nothing happened. Well, then maybe it's just gossip. Maybe. But gossip can kill a business just as dead as the truth. After Steve hung up, I did some research on Chad's previous location. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for: newspaper archives, court records, social media posts. The pattern was clear. Chad Wilcox had a history of inappropriate relationships with married clients. This wasn't his first affair. It probably wouldn't be his last, but it was definitely going to be his most expensive. Friday brought the climax I'd been orchestrating for weeks. The town's monthly First Friday festival was happening on the green, with food trucks, live music, and half the population milling around enjoying the evening. I'd spent the day making final preparations. Mason had helped me set up a small display booth for Carter Hardware. Nothing unusual, just a table with some promotional materials and a laptop showing a slideshow of our services. What the crowd didn't know was that the laptop was connected to a portable projector hidden in the hardware display. And the slideshow was about to become much more interesting. Veronica showed up around 7, probably hoping to do some damage control, to show the town that she was still the respectable assistant principal they'd known for years. She was with Renee, both of them trying to look casual and confident. Chad arrived separately, also attempting to project normalcy. He worked the crowd like the salesman he was, shaking hands, making small talk, pretending his business wasn't hemorrhaging clients. I waited until the evening's main event, Mayor Richardson's speech about community values and supporting local businesses. The crowd was gathered around the gazebo, attention focused on the mayor, when I activated my slideshow. The first image appeared on the gazebo's decorative screen: Veronica and Chad at the Riverside Inn, holding hands across the table. The crowd murmured, but the mayor kept talking, unaware of what was happening behind him. The second image, Chad and Veronica entering his condo building together. The murmurs got louder. The third image, the two of them on Chad's balcony, embracing. Mayor Richardson finally turned around and saw what everyone was looking at. But I wasn't done. The fourth image was a screenshot of text messages, blown up large enough for everyone to read. Chad: "Can't wait to see you tonight." Eli working late again? Veronica: "Until 9. I told him I was at a school board meeting. Chad: "Perfect. I'll have wine ready." The crowd erupted. People were pointing, talking, taking photos with their phones. Mayor Richardson tried to regain control, but it was too late. The fifth and final image was the most damning: a photo of Veronica leaving Chad's condo at midnight, clearly recognizable under the parking lot lights. That's when Veronica snapped. She pushed through the crowd toward my booth, her face twisted with rage. "You bastard! You sick, pathetic bastard!" Everyone turned to watch as she reached my table and tried to grab the laptop. I pulled it away, and she stumbled, nearly falling. "How dare you!" she screamed. "How dare you humiliate me like this?" "I didn't humiliate you, Veronica. You humiliated yourself. Those photos are private. Then you shouldn't have taken them in public places." Chad appeared at her side, trying to pull her away. "Veronica, don't. Let's just go." But she was beyond reason now, 6 months of lies and deception finally catching up with her. "You want to destroy my life? Fine, but I'm taking you down with me." She turned to the crowd, many of whom were recording with their phones. "You want to know the truth? Yes, I had an affair. Yes, I slept with Chad. And you know why? Because my husband is a boring, pathetic loser who hasn't touched me in 2 years." The crowd went silent. Even I was stunned by the viciousness of her attack. "You think you're so clever," she continued, "with your little spy games and your evidence, but all you've proven is that you're not man enough to keep your wife satisfied." That's when Chad made his fatal mistake. Instead of getting Veronica away from the crowd, he decided to try to salvage his own reputation. "Veronica, stop. This isn't helping anyone." She whirled on him. "Oh, now you're worried about helping? Where was this concern when you were begging me to leave my husband? When you were promising me we'd be together?" Chad's face went white. "I never said that." "Liar! You said you loved me. You said we'd get married as soon as I divorced Eli. Veronica, please. You used me, just like you used that woman in Springfield and the one in Hartford before that. The crowd was eating this up, phones recording every word. Chad's reputation wasn't just damaged now. It was obliterated. That's enough! Chad grabbed Veronica's arm, trying to drag her away. That's when Mason stepped forward. I don't think the lady wants to go with you. This is none of your business, Chad snarled. Actually, it is. Veronica's been lying to my boss for months, destroying his marriage, his reputation, his life. So yeah, it's my business. Other people started speaking up. Tom Bradley, the plumber. My wife's been friends with Veronica for 10 years. She's been lying to everyone. Mrs. Groves, surprisingly spry for 73. I've been watching this nonsense for months. Poor Eli deserves better. Even strangers were taking sides. The crowd had turned into a mob, and the mob had chosen its target. Chad looked around desperately, realizing he was outnumbered. This is insane. You're all insane. No, I said quietly, stepping forward. We're just tired of being lied to. I pulled out a folder and handed it to Mayor Richardson. These are copies of text messages, photos, and financial records showing that Chad Wilcox has been conducting an affair with my wife for 6 months. They've used school property for personal meetings, lied to colleagues and friends, and destroyed a 12-year marriage for their own selfish pleasure. Mayor Richardson flipped through the evidence, his expression growing darker with each page. Furthermore, I continued, I have evidence that Mr. Wilcox has engaged in similar behavior in at least 2 previous locations, suggesting a pattern of predatory conduct toward married women. Chad made a desperate play. You can't prove any of that. Actually, I can. I pulled out my phone and played a recording, Chad's voice from our conversation at Murphy's, admitting that he and Veronica had been meeting regularly. The crowd pressed closer, hungry for more details. Chad was trapped in the center of it all, his carefully constructed facade crumbling in real time. Please, he said, looking around desperately. This is all a misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding, I said, was thinking you could destroy my life without consequences. That's when Veronica made her final fatal mistake. She lunged at me, nails aimed at my face, screaming obscenities that made the crowd gasp. I stepped aside, and she crashed into the hardware display, sending tools and promotional materials flying. She landed hard on the grass, her dress torn, her dignity in tatters. The crowd fell silent, watching as the woman who'd been their children's assistant principal, their neighbor, their friend, lay sobbing in the dirt. I think we're done here, I said. The end. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching. Ting, 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 ting.